Hi, I'm Vanessa and I love bad Star Trek. Couple of announcements. First, I am co-hosting a podcast that is streaming live every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time to talk about Strange New Worlds, hosted by a channel called Subspace Chatter, and I will link that below. Second, I have finally moved from Chicago to LA because I decided to accept that COVID was endemic, as in not going away. And Chicago being as cold as it is for a good chunk of the year means that you are inside primarily. And who knows what other variants are coming down the pike. So in conjunction with other reasons, I decided that it was time to move on. Chicago's a lovely city, but I am extremely happy to be here in LA. But speaking of COVID, I will be the exposed nose that is Star Trek: The Next Generation. And today I will be talking to you about an episode called Masks. Let's go ahead and simply start with the question. Easy enough. What is this about? Can anyone explain it to me? And don't just list what happens either. The events and sequence alone do not a plot make, nor do they make a point. So I implore you, lend me your ears, interwebs. What is this about? It's a mystery, and it never gets solved. So this is a very data-centric episode, and Brent Spiner, who played Data, got the script at midnight after wrapping at yet another data-centric episode called Thine Own Self. So apparently he was like, Jesus, I have most of the dialogue and I'm just embodying four completely different people, and one of them is a woman. Thank you. Brent said that this was one of the most rigorous episodes for him acting wise, and it was a lot of pressure for him, and he was really nervous about being able to do this, but like, why? To what end? Why did they put him through all that for this? This is season 7, so fans are very well aware that Brent Spiner can act his thick and juicy ass off. The director didn't like it. Even one of the writers, Ron Moore, said, quote, I remember seeing the initial story and saying, Jesus, what is this? It was pretty out there. And then the script came in and we were all just sort of scratching our heads and looked at each other and wondered what he's smoking out there in the Alps. He, of course, being Joe Menosky, who's written plenty of other Berman Trek in one whatever episode of Discovery. Another bigwig, Brandon Braga, said that Joe is one of those writers who has a unique vision that no one else understands. But as a writer, especially for TV, I would think that your job is to be clear and unambiguous about what your vision is, because you end up with a script where Data says, oh, I just had thousands of people inside of me and we're not allowed to laugh. Brandon went on to say, and I'm paraphrasing, that his scripts can't be touched. And if they are, Menosky has to be the one to do it because he's the only one who understands what he's going for. Like he's some auteur like Jordan Peele or Stanley Kubrick. Just say it, homie. It's fine. No one's going to come after you. Just be honest at this point. It makes no sense. It just makes no sense, period. As a result of the obfuscated direction of the episode and the focus being on Data being inhabited by a random cycle of dead people and gods, the episode itself is a classic for being such a mess. The cold open confuses the fuck out of me because it gets such basic things so wrong. Because I didn't know that Deanna Troi was an art teacher. Why is she assisting a ceramics class? This must be her first day because she is terrible at it. She didn't even talk about how many people have lost their fingers in the pug mill and laugh heartily and smokily at your shitty kick wheel technique. No, she just goes around giving vaguely frustrating instructions to children whose grasp of abstract concepts aren't really formed at all. Because she sees this one kid who made this Giga Chat of a bird. Like, it's a shitty bird. It's terrible. It's way too jacked to do anything, never mind fly. But it's kids with clay. So you just say nice job and move on, or say something constructive if they ask you. So when Troi is shown to be frustrated with what he made, it feels very out of place. And then she says, don't worry about making a bird look exactly like a bird, but make it make me think of flying. and they show the student being all happily encouraged by that. But that's not proper instruction to me. There's like empowering someone to think, and then there's make not a bird, but make a flighty bird-like thing. If it were me, my ass would make it a bird as a passenger on an airplane. Like, be specific, you know? The kid even said, our teacher wants us to make a realistic bird. So you tell him that the bird looks like it would crash and die because it skipped leg day. It looks horrible. Like, he might cry, but you get your point across. In other news, I should never be a teacher. But can we talk about why the fuck is Data in this art class? Like, I guess they put him in there because he's a robot and he doesn't complain. I just don't see Data choosing this. Like, oh, a kindergarten ceramics class. Yes, this is how I'm going to spend my afternoon. Of course, he made a perfect pad interface, and Troi again suggests something abstract, which he doesn't understand.
I'd like you to sculpt music.
Counselor, music is a collection of acoustic vibrations. How can I reproduce a sound with clay?
It's a start.
But season 7 Data is far more sophisticated in his understanding of abstract concepts as he's shown to be here. Like, I don't buy that season 7 Data wouldn't understand what an abstract concept is. Data is one of the only characters on The Next Generation who actually develops over time. And I don't mean just being inflicted with events. Like, Data is literally wired to learn and grow. And he does. He changes a great deal. He went from being rather socially unaware and conspicuously android-like to trying out relationships, both romantic and platonic, which require awarenesses around emotions, which is an abstract concept. But most importantly of all, he's already made paintings that are abstract. So to say that Data's understanding of the intangible is on par with a kindergartner is one of the signs that Minosky's precious script needed to be gutted. Meanwhile, there's also this big mysterious 87-million-year-old comet alongside the Enterprise that the Federation's never seen before, which flashed a light because that's all it's got to flash. You know, that's the name of my new album. Comets have no genitals. And that's when Beverly Crusher, while in Troy's quarters, sees a random boxy column with a ball on top and says, "Did Will make this for you?" And Troi goes, "That's not his style." Let's do a quick poll of the class. Who wants to think about what Will Riker's ceramic style is? I don't. Except I imagine that they all have a flare at the base. Because you don't want to get it lost. And anyway, that's the cold open. And it's like two halves of my brain are trying to make sense of a sentence. Like my favorite Lewis Black quote, "If it weren't for my horse, I would have never spent that year in college." Once the comet passed, a column appeared. Like, what the fuck does a comet have to do with ceramics? Why can't the kid just make his ugly, muscle-bound Giga Chad bird free from passive-aggressive criticism from someone unqualified to be a teacher, as far as we know? What's wrong with Data making a pad or a treble clef? Why is he in a kindergarten class again after the break? But this time making a mask that Troi is just so shocked.
Data? This is amazing. How did you come up with this?
Not only because it's way above and beyond the pinch pots everybody else is making, but because it has a similar symbol on it as the useless piece of crap left in her quarters before. And Data says that he has no idea where the column in her room came from, but the mask came from his imagination, which is rich. And not a surprise, but she's almost like, "Wow, Data, you get a gold star." Troi, he has had a full-time job for as long as you have known him. He has had sex. He should not be in this class. But one thing he does notice in the class is that one of the stations was malfunctioning. So I guess Troi issues him a hall pass so he could go to engineering with Geordi and Will Riker to find out that an alien technology has downloaded itself onto the ship from the comet and is reconfiguring systems, which is pretty significant. Possibly even Data himself, who recognizes some of the symbols, even beginning to interpret them.
Boundary, border, Road.
Sounds like a virus to me. So instead of tracking down who's been clicking all the spam email links, Will's like, we gotta find out about that comet. So Worf shoots it with phasers. No trying to make contact or try to send a probe, just blast away till you get to the core, which I guess that's the best course of action. The blast dislodged what looks like a cluster of Legos stuck together, and before someone steps on it, Data somehow concludes that this is an informational archive. Yes, that is a sunburn. Then he suggests for the second time for him to get a level 1 diagnostic on his positronic net. He's feeling kind of funny, so Geordi, who's his best friend, conducts that test for him. So then Riker and Picard have a completely pointless rap session in Picard's ready room, and Riker's like, there's symbols all over the screens and it's weird, man, I don't understand what this is about. And Picard also repeats himself by going, the column is ritualistic, and talks about the significance of the symbols in the column at least twice in a row.
Do you think Data could be right? Could we have stumbled across some sort of alien library?
Oh, yes, it's possible. And if so, this is a find of the most enormous significance.
I keep seeing this design.
Yes, this symbol seems to be of particular significance.
I'll just say it again. While there is no hope for this story, such as it is, what plot, the script could use some editing. 2 people repeating themselves, one doing it in the same scene even. These are very easily fixable mistakes, not artistic choices. It doesn't build tension or an understanding to have 2 people hold up pictures of what is very clearly a sun and a moon, knowing that these 2 dudes make an entire career looking at suns and moons and going, I have no idea what this could mean. And this is all meant to build up to Data starting his metamorphosis, if you will. The only moment in this episode that made me feel anything but annoyed was the moment where Data asks Geordi, what does it feel like when a person is losing his mind? To be aware of disassociation while being completely powerless to stop it sounds genuinely terrifying. But Data continues to just state that he doesn't know what's happening and he feels different, and how different isn't completely clear until he turns around and has one of those sun symbols on his head, and he shows Data's program to also give a courtesy wake-up call.
Asaka is waking.
I don't think Data is talking about moussaka, the delectable Greek casserole. Just to prepare you here, the majority of the rest of the runtime is spent trying to figure out what the fuck the entity inhabiting Data is even talking about. Like, it's clear he's connected to this archive, or Data's finally snapped after being enrolled in a kindergarten class after graduating Starfleet Academy years ago and getting promoted to lieutenant commander on the bridge of the Enterprise. Yes, it is enthralling to watch Brent Spiner inhabit these characters, but the way the first one is written is like this defiant, shitty child named Ehat, who is pointlessly evasive about answering basic questions like, who's Moussaka?
Asaka.
Where do you come from? Just basic shit.
Are there others like you there?
That's when he falls to his knees and tells Troi in an old man voice something that would make me jump right out of my skin.
I am yours. Every part of me is yours.
Particularly from a sentient robot. So Picard's suggestion that he remains in his quarters does make some sense. But what doesn't make sense is their plan to just scan the archive and talk to these people through Data to get answers. Because I know both things just yield nothing. Like, I get why he's intrigued, because he's a hobby archaeologist and an 87 million year old culture would fascinate the crap out of him. Why not focus on ridding Data of this virus and getting the fuck out of there? Obviously their ship is having problems. And then analyze what happened to their ship after the fact. Instead of risking losing Data, like Picard just sees Data as a window to the past right now, instead of a person whose autonomy is being violated by multiple personalities, as Troi puts it, as the result of that archive. And Picard finds out that the moussaka is no lasagna, but a queen. And Ehat is some like person who thinks the queen is lazy and sleeps all the time and causes problems when she's awake, and that the only person that can stop her from being awake is Corgano, but he's not there.
Then we should try to keep her asleep.
Other than ridding Data of an entity, there is really no reason to get into this lore. So if we're gonna hear it at length, at least make it interesting. Like, sure, they raised the stakes by having the archive lock onto the ship with a tractor beam, causing some issues, and Data grabbing Picard's hand, and Data being as impossibly strong as he is. This does put Picard in some measure of danger, but he does let go. And when Worf goes to respond to an emergency in 10 Forward, he finds a hideous arrangement of boxes. And I guess it was an interior decorating emergency. Like those episodes of Trading Spaces when the people who show up to the redecorated house absolutely hate it.
Oh my god. Oh, Baduda. This is great. It's pink.
That's the first thing you noticed was the ceiling.
Yeah.
I'm glad you could tell it was straw, because we weren't sure you'd even know for sure what it was.
It's straw.
It's straw.
And it's not just 10 Forward. The whole ship is littered with these shitty boxes and vines and Musika faces. Not only that, but the archive is actually beaming out things from the ship that are essential to running it, while reshaping the ship and its contents to these ugly statement pieces. Why don't they just shoot it? Shoot it. Pop the zit that it is, get Data a popsicle, move on. But Picard's like, Musaka is the key. Like, their ship is in danger now. But he insists on trying to talk to Data, who's back to old man mode. Again, prattling about Corgano.
Only Corgano can talk to Musaka.
Like he mentioned before, and Picard's like, okay, how do we get Musaka to show up? Maybe I can offer myself as a sacrifice, which is a great plan. Data changes into Ehad again and says to build a temple. Like, why doesn't the archive just build the temple itself? What is going on? We keep getting these warnings about Musaka, but all that's happened so far is Ugo Home Furnishings are fucking up the feng shui flow of the Enterprise right now, and Data's losing his crackers. Like, if you build it, she will come, is the gist of this speech. But first, Data has to draw the diagram, which looks ironically like a kid's drawing.
A curve as the rolling hillside. A point as a distant bird.
Which they're putting into the computer to create the temple. And Geordi's like, if we put the symbol in our ship, it could just turn it into a rock. Who knows? Which seems really careless. Like, it makes what they're doing really stupid and pointless. And Troi, oddly enough in this scene, is the voice of reason. But Picard's response to her is completely coconuts.
Question is, can we trust a personality from an alien archive that seems bent on taking us over?
He had risked his life to show me that symbol. I think we have to risk it.
He just takes the entities possessing Data's body at face value. For someone so consistently skeptical as Picard, this is really out of character for him. Sorry, I'm also not that scared. I am truly scared that Picard has taken this damn long to put the pieces together after the temple was built. Like, wow, this shape keeps appearing with the sun. And that Ehad guy kept talking about the sun sleeping after it's been chased. I wonder what that thing could be. And Worf's like, it's got horns. Maybe it's an animal.
The symbol suggests antlers of some kind, horns. Maybe it is meant to represent an animal.
Why would the animal chase a sun, Troi says? Could it be the moon? Good God, you work in space. That circle jerk is when Data goes full Musaka and Tai Chi's her way out of her quarters. So this, of course, is where we have Brent playing Data playing a woman. And Brent told the writer Jerry Taylor, like, Dustin Hoffman had an entire year to prepare for Tootsie. Again, Dustin was not playing a woman, but playing a drag queen. Jerry said, don't worry, you don't have to play a woman. Just be a leader. Which, oh God. wow, the fact that a woman said this shouldn't surprise me, but it doesn't feel good to know that these were considered mutually exclusive concepts. But thankfully, I think Brent took that direction as just be strong. Like, I don't see him playing into any sort of feminine stereotypes, so I don't really care that he's a woman in this one. So I'm glad we don't have another profit and lace situation, even if this episode is super stupid. And Picard's replicating Corgano's mask on the bridge and comes up with this brilliant plan to cosplay as the Corgano guy and confront Musaka, not really knowing what to say or what'll happen, but he's got good improv skills.
Well, I'm really not certain. But there are similarities between this culture and others that I've studied. I would imagine I'm just going to improvise.
Picard, as captain, is officially yes-anding their ship and Data out of danger. So let's take stock of the layers here, shall we? Brent Spiner is playing Data, who is being occupied by a queen who thinks that she's the sun. And Sir Patrick Stewart is playing Picard, who is playing Corgano, who's the moon, who is trying to convince the sun to go to sleep. So the rest of the episode feels like a school pageant, minus parents filming it for their Facebook page.
Dayman, oh, fighter of the night, man, oh, champion of the sun, oh, you're a master of karate and friendship for everyone.
Musaka falls asleep and it's over. Data's like, thousands of people inside of me was a remarkable experience. Good for you, Data. No slut shaming here. I do not shame people for their body count. Like, what the fuck was that about? Data's just been violated. They played some really bad RPG and took a frustratingly long time to identify the sun and the moon. Like, Worf, Troi, and Picard should all get kicked out of Starfleet. We know Brent Spiner can act, but production waited until season 7 to stress him out for a pointless ass episode. If your script makes no sense and makes an idiot out of everyone in the cast and rewrites characters to devolve, no matter how deep or meaningful you think it is, it just needs to go in the trash along with your ego. Like, subscribe. No pressure, but peer pressure. Till next time, I guess.